I've done something that might seem a little bit odd to some. I've went ahead and picked up a Canon 5D Mark III, a full frame DSLR camera that came out way back in 2012. Now I already own the Canon 7D Mark II, as well as the R50 which I'm filming on here, and I also own a host of Pentax DSLR cameras, including the K5, the K3 and the K3 Mark III, all of which are brilliant crop censored bodies. But I've never owned or even used a full frame camera up until this point, and I've always been a little bit curious as to how they stack up against APS-C bodies, especially when it comes to shooting fast action, which is something I do a lot of, shooting dirt bikes all the time throughout the summer. So here's 5 reasons why this old beast still makes sense even today, and why I don't think you need the latest gear to get great results. First up, image quality. The 22.3 megapixel full frame sensor that lives inside the 5D Mark III has a decent dynamic range and delivers beautiful detailed images with rich and vibrant colours. Compared to the crop sensor bodies I own, the 5D Mark III gives me what I can only describe as the full frame look. This to me comes in the form of being able to separate the subject from oftentimes messy and cluttered backgrounds, creating depth and an almost 3D look to the image, which is amplified even more by using fast telephoto prime lenses like this Canon EF 300mm. And when you nail focus with that combo, the images just have a unique pop to them. Reason number 2, this thing is built like a tank. Motocross is not a gentle sport, and neither is shooting it, I can tell you that much. Dirt, mud and dust all make for great looking images, but they are pretty much the worst conditions for your equipment. But the 5D Mark III, well, this thing really is built like a tank. A magnesium alloy body and great weather sealing give you the feeling that when you pick this camera up, it was definitely made to last. It gives you the confidence to shoot in rough conditions without having to baby the camera. I'd even go as far to say that the Canon 5D Mark III is just about as rugged as any of my Pentax bodies, and that is certainly saying something. These things are also like tanks. Reason number 3, it's budget friendly. One of the great things about picking up an older flagship camera is that you can almost always do so on a budget. I picked up this Canon 5D Mark III for under £400, which works out to be around $540. And that's crazy when you consider this was a $3,500 camera at launch. It's proof that you really don't need to go out and be spending thousands on the latest and greatest to get the results that you want. Personally, I'd say for anyone starting out in photography, looking at buying an older camera in general may be the way to go. It's not only budget friendly, but it will also help you develop a set of skills that you can transfer to any camera, no matter the age. Reason number 4, low light performance. Even though I love my Canon 7D Mark II for its speed and reach, when it comes to low light performance, the 5D Mark III is leagues ahead. For the most part, motocross events often take place during the midday hours, where there's plenty of available light. But there are times when the sun does not make an appearance, which unsurprisingly can happen quite often up here in the north of England. I've shot trials and enduro events where 90% of the action happens in wooded areas, and I've been forced to crank up the camera's ISO to compensate for the lack of light. And these are situations where the full frame sensor of the Canon 5D Mark III will come into its own. Cleaner files, less noise and more flexibility in post, all lead to more keepers. Obviously, technology has moved on since 2012, and the Canon 5D Mark III is not really on the same level as modern mirrorless cameras, or in some cases newer crop sensor DSLR cameras such as the Pentax K3 Mark III. But still, it's nice to know that you have that little bit of extra room to push things if you need to. And reason number 5, the full frame experience. If I'm being honest, I was just really curious. I've shot with a lot of APS-C cameras and love all of them, but I wanted to see what it was like using a full frame camera that on paper could perform for what I intended to use it for. And you know what? the Canon 5D Mark III definitely delivered. I hate to break it to you, but it's not just about specs. It's about how a camera feels, responds and performs in the real world. I've come to find that being confident in the camera you're using and enjoying the shooting experience is just as, if not more important, than specs alone. And for me, this has almost always led to creating better images. On the surface, picking up the Canon 5D Mark III in a world filled with AI and cameras that do everything for you sounds like a strange decision to make. But this camera is solid, reliable and proves that results don't come from the newest gear. They come from understanding the tools you're using and what works for you. Which is why I would argue that lens choice is actually more important than the camera you're using itself. So check out the video up next to see if you agree. Thanks for watching and I'll see you over there.